Hello and welcome back to Parallel Barking, everyone. I am Ariana Backer here with
Larry Backer, woof woof.
Bark Bark. Today,
Actually, we shouldn't be woofing and barking. We should be mechano
oh,
bark.
uh, well, if it all goes as planned, it will be as lifelike as
Right.
we
But
are.
we're not here. We're doing an episode of Blade Runner.
For those of you who are old enough to know what that movie is or
Wait
have
a minute. This is a cult classic.
yeah,
So
or
more,
are cool enough, let's say, are cool enough to have seen that movie.
yes.
Anyway,
We're all going to be overrun by cyborgs, thinking machines, and at the end of the day, I'll be back.
okay, you're giving it away.
Sorry,
What
go
I
ahead.
mean, well, that's
It's very exciting.
it is very, very exciting or very,
So
very scary.
all you humans, beware.
Oh, your humans. I mean, depending on how you look at it.
All
I
right,
mean,
introduce the subject.
as the AR market has been expanding, of course, people have been talking more and more about this concept of AI singularity.
That's because they're not busy enough.
And AI singularity, what is this? AI singularity is this concept, it's an event where after AIs become either self-aware or reach the ability of improvement beyond our control and rapidly transform society.
We lose control. And by we,
That
I
is
don't mean me
the
or you.
biggest. I mean, and the interesting thing is,
These are the scary stories that old tech people tell young tech people in order to make them be wary about their coding and the transposition of this human mania from the late 20th century towards self-actualization to then encode this kind of bizarre mania into the programs, the self-referencing and self-learning programs that they're building. But I'm being judgmental,
okay, all right, and
which I won't be able to do after the singularity. So I got to get it in
you got to
now.
get it out. I mean, while you still can.
All right. So you're an adherent of the singularity theory. Why?
I mean, I don't know what I am yet. I'm an
Well, the
observer.
machines will tell you
I'm an
if you wait
observer.
a while.
But what is interesting is
Yes.
that it has all been conjecture up to this point. Nobody's really been able to decide when this point of singularity is and what it means. And actually,
Or even what it
researchers
looks like.
don't even agree what the term artificial general intelligence means.
Which is why these are the kind of fairy tale stories that we use. We don't talk about goblins and wee people and all kinds of other creatures that roam the night in the glades because we don't have them anymore. And so now we have our new dark forest of the unknown, which is these self-actualizing machines. And
Okay, but
soon,
the
okay,
one interesting thing that happened recently is that some AI researchers found a metric that they are using to define a timeline for when we will reach or our society will reach AI singularity. And it's
right,
based on language. It's based on
right, right.
transhuman language.
Right. It's despite my mocking, this is actually very interesting for a number of reasons. And I just want to jump into them just very quickly, and then we can go back to all of this. The first is that it's not machines that are telling us when they're going to be self-actualized. It's still a very human project. The humans are the ones who are debating among themselves when this occurs, and that the function of this occurrence is tied to control by humans of the machine. So it's an extraordinarily human-centric conception grounded in the autonomy of non-humans, but grounded in the the continued ability of humans both to enslave, and now we're using this term cybernetically, I guess, to control, I think is the language that you use, those sorts of coded instructions through which we use machines to leverage human capacity in a variety of different ways. And it's very interesting in the sense that what it does is project out this fear of loss of control from the human to the non-human,
Yeah.
which is a forward-facing way of dealing with something that 600 years ago would have been a backwards-facing thing. That is, pre-Renaissance, the notion that humanity is subject to the control of other self-actualizing forces, nature, the weather, spirits, right? And so this is an old reflex. We used to look at it going back to the forces of nature around us. Now we're looking at it forward. It's the same kind of pixie, evil, uncontrolled thing, but now in our extraordinary hubris, it is a creature of our own creating. And for those of you who read the Bible, of course, assuming that there is a God who actually is correctly depicted in this thing, that entity must be laughing because it resonates so much. Humans are so funny in the sense that they forget what they've done before. Maybe that's why we need machines. But this is an old story, right? But it used to be the divine, right? God making humans in their own image and then freaking out when having eaten the tree from the tree of knowledge. He then freaks out, or God freaks out, it doesn't have a gender, about them being able to eat the tree of life and then becoming like him, and then being able to potentially displace him. This whole notion of singularity is an extraordinary bit of arrogance in the sense that, one, they reconstruct their product as the equivalent of making humanity in this godscape. And then
Yeah.
the second thing is that somehow this thing will then not only be so perfected as an image of us that it will become a better version of us and then will disappear, which I think is very interesting from a discursive perspective. But it tells us much less about the technology of AI than it tells us about the modern expression of really ancient, primal human selfishness and self-centeredness and human fear in that context, and always fear of the unknown. In this case, with a little bit of hubris, it's fear of the unknown by our own hand.
Well, and it's also taking shape in the form of movements like anti-humanists and transhumanists. Anti-humanists are, it's a group that is kind of looking forward to the takeover of
Oh, yay.
the robots and humans dying. And I think it's mostly because of the damage that humanity has done to environmentally to
in their view.
exactly.
Right. And these are all, now recall that this is also, and my job here today apparently is to remind us that there is nothing new under the sun, and that these are ancient human reactions, certainly collective human reactions in the face of fear and the unknown. We had a name for this when the evil singularity, because this is the second singularity in the last 200 years that we worried about. And this was a singularity that was going to be brought about at the apex of industrialization. And in that singularity, what was going to happen was that in that context, this is the 19th century, early 20th century, that dumb machines would effectively make humans surplus. There's nothing for them to do. Right. And there were groups of people in the 19th century, Luddites, right, whose idea was not like these people who want, oh, yay, we're all going to die.
Oh, no, we're
there's a
getting
movie
to
about
that.
this. This is Carnosaur. And at some point before we end, I'm going to talk about the plot of Carnosaur. For those of you who haven't seen it, it's the most obnoxious, but
Okay,
it's
yeah.
a relevant movie. But anyway, So the Luddites said, okay, so we need to prevent this, and the only way we can do that is by destroying machines. You could have gone the other way and said, oh no, that what we must do is hasten this singularity by creating so many machines that we become completely irrelevant. One strain of that shows up in Marxist-Leninist theory as the notion that, in fact, if machines can do all of this, then the notion of the exploitation of labor becomes irrelevant, and you're one step closer to the establishment of a communist society. So what you want is this world of machines and other things that make human labor and worry about material goods. You want to make that irrelevant. Right. And so you see both of these things. On the other hand, you have people say, oh, no, 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 because what we're doing is creating Satan on earth. Again, this is a force of evil for those who don't believe in Satan. There's a metaphor. Right. And that indeed what we must do is either to worship it and see ourselves finally dead, or to destroy it. And so we're winding up doing, in a sense, the same thing here with creatures or with things, instruments of our own making.
Yeah. I mean, is the debate more about singularity, or is it more about the pervasiveness of AI in society now, and people are worried about?
Well, why are you worried about AI? I've always been curious about people worrying about ridiculous things, or actually worrying about important things, but in ridiculous ways, because there's this huge disjunction between their analytics and the object of analysis. And this is one of those areas where people with no knowledge of what they're facing, but with a huge social and cultural warehouse full of basically well-worn reaction discourses, just pull one out and say, oh, this one looks like it's pretty good. And
yeah, I mean, there's a big jump, really. I think it has to do with, pre-held schemas that you develop over years of your experiences. But here, let me give you an example.
Okay.
Because this folds into your Carnosaur theme. You can talk about.
Y'all have to watch a movie. You'll hate me for it, but it's a great movie.
A bit, okay.
It's a bad great movie.
So why people are freaking out is because they believe
they're not busy enough,
that superhuman algorithms could kill everyone. Literally.
Oh, I see. Everyone. I see death. Right. And it's either the death of your soul, or a physical death, or some kind of enslavement. Again, we go back to Terminator. We've got all of these. In the old days, we had, what was it, Metropolis in the early 20th century. These tropes are just so well
let me give you the why.
In industrial and modernist society. All right, go ahead.
And these are Oxford researchers.
Oh my God, well, I'm sorry. This is another singularity, and now I'm on my knees and saying Hosanna.
I knew that would
and Hallelujah in the highest. I mean,
I knew that would push your button.
Oh, and you did, and you see. But anyway, so it's from some algorithmically developed high rank institution.
You know what?
The ranking of which magically then descends on its factors.
I'm going to continue. They're warning of the danger of artificial
naughty person.
Intelligence surpassing human power. And
meaning their power.
Yes, exactly. The scientists are calling for regulation to protect society from advanced algorithms.
Yay. I knew there was a job for me.
But the reason is because advanced
I'll regulate them.
They can work game theory, okay? And that is
hooray.
A step ahead.
Oh my God, that's the intellectual flavor of the last generation. That's always, it's like the game stopper. Oh, let me do game theoretical blah blah. It's like a colon and then blah blah blah. Yeah, you can use all kinds of game theory. You can use all kinds of theories. But it doesn't necessarily mean that what you're doing is either relevant or particularly useful or even better, interesting, other than the interest that one generates from your use of jargon. This
Yeah,
is like when people talk about Marxism and then you ask them they haven't read Marx. Oh, wow. Okay. But you do know how to sling that term game theory around, and you've written a couple articles that may or may not suggest a deep understanding of it, especially when you're trying to transpose it into an environment, right? An analytical environment that's very different. Now, having said that, I haven't read or listened to the protests, but I can understand. And then again, we go back to where I started, which is this is really about humans, not about the algorithms. What they're really telling you in
exactly.
a way, if you work through this, is not that the machines or the algorithms will enslave you or get rid of you, but it is that the people who are managing these things, both in terms of coding and in terms of convincing everyone that whatever spews out of this self-actualizing machine is worthy of not only legitimacy, but the exercise of coercive power, right? That those are the people that will then produce a singularity. So if that's the case, what are we really worried about? Are we worried about the AI, or are we worried about the priestly caste, coders, and people who bamboozle everyone else into believing that this self-actualized AI is God, right? And therefore will then deploy whatever police or coercive forces to make good on whatever spews out of these algorithmically generated devices. It's humans. It's humans. It's humans and human. It's humans, and
Oh,
that's
you
what's
said
the most
hubris. You were
interesting
about to
thing of
say
all.
hubris? Hubris?
Say what? Humans,
Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
right? So humans are coding this. The machine learns from. If you think about the program that's now making academics shake in their boots, or also demand regulation, because of course, in the face of risk and in the face of the unknown, everyone's first resort, certainly since 1945, has been to run off to the lawyers or to the politicians and beg for regulation. Let's regulate this thing. We don't know what it is and
That's
we
the
don't
first
really
thing to do.
understand.
Right.
But again, we're talking about the humans and we're talking about power relations. Oh, we don't like the power relations now between the product of these codes that we've now built into these self-referencing producers of analysis. So what we're going to do is get humans to then regulate it or to use it to instrumentalize it or weaponize it in ways that other humans will accept, right? And they'll accept regulation, which is code in a way, but people don't talk about it as code, and therefore it's less scary, instead of machine generated code that is to some extent impossible to apply without human intervention or without human consent. So there's a human in there somewhere, right? Which is why the notion of singularity is still, for me, it's still, there's a dissonance here. Yeah, unless you're talking Terminator, and not only do they
Well, yes,
they
it's
become
kind of like an
self-conscious.
event horizon sort of thing. You get to that point and there's an infinite amount of possibilities and there's no return from that, I
Sure,
think.
sure, sure. But let's think about how that works. All right. So how do we get there? How do we build AI? We build AI by coding, right? And what the coding does is do two things. It crawls for information that is accessible through the products of other coding, right? The web or whatever. And then it instructs through the coding. The coding then instructs the coding on ways in which it can, rather than wait for more coding instructions, it can itself use whatever through the instructions that are put into it. It can use that to then continue to build from its harvesting of data grounded in its coding, additional products, which is built into the substructures of its coding in the first place. All right, so that makes perfect sense, and we do this all the time. This is a self-learning machine, and we think that we're worried about this. We're using this all the time. Everything from and it's the basis for everything from predictive analytics
This is what we built them
to
to do.
assessment,
This is
right?
what
To
we
assessment systems.
we
We
built them
we
to learn.
right, but okay, and fine, and so they're learning, but there's a difference between learning and teaching, and there's a difference between teaching and commanding. right? There's an intermediary there. So if you're talking about a
Exactly. Yeah.
singularity, then it has to be at some point, not only are they moving from learning to teaching to commanding, but that they've also developed the human capacity to make good on the command. And now we're back in the world of Terminator, that either built machines that will shoot us, right? Or they built machines that will make it impossible to, and this is the more real version. This is where the singularity gets interesting. If our entire society is built on smart houses, smart processes, smart transport, smart everything, at that point, a interconnected ecology of self-learning devices, assuming that they're smart enough to develop a collective of smart self-referencing devices, could become elements, could develop the power to control by denying us access to the things on which we rely them for: electricity, access to our housing, access to food, access to manufactured materials, and the like.
But there would have to be some sort of trigger to there would have to be a decision to make that happen.
Well, no, the whole point of the singularity is that since we've lost control of these things, the decision is not ours, right?
That's
It's
what
where
I'm
the human
saying. That's
loses.
what I'm
Right, right,
saying. There
right.
would have to
But
be.
it only but it only works if somehow they are put in a position where, if they organize themselves, they can. It's not that they're just producing profound ideas like "don't do that," but that they can then make good on it and say, "Well, you're a jerk, and therefore you're going to stay out of your house." And since it's all done through these coded protocols, we can both identify you, pass judgment on you, and then deny you access to your job, or ensure that you are no longer paid for work, or deny you access to transport, or whatever it is, without human agency.
Yeah, that's the thing. Without
But
the
you need human agency to set this up in a way that would make this possible. And that's probably where the singularity actually becomes interesting. It's in the cumulative building of ecologies of coded functionality.
I think the
that
worry
can,
is that the AI will learn to at a point so rapidly that it might learn how to code itself.
well, but that's fine. I mean, like I said, the coding is not the
To
scary
a
part. The scary part is, well, what are you doing with the knowledge that you have in the coding? One, you're going to do the very human thing and say, use the binary human, not human. Then you're going to develop a hierarchy: non-human high, human low. And then you're going to have to make good on that, right? This is the problem. You can get to enlightenment, but unless you have the coercive machinery to then make good on it, i.e., how am I going to kill all the humans? How am I going to enslave them, exploit them, or control them? You're going to have access to the entire ecology, or the entire substructure of human collective organization at the time in which this occurs. And we're not quite there yet. Even if we do have thinking machines, they are for the moment trapped within the artificial spaces within which they can become conscious, and they can
well, that's the
assert.
point. We don't know we don't know when. Maybe 7-10 years. That when will it become possible?
And then they'll control. Well, in Terminator, right, we do know, right, in Terminator, the way they did this, if I remember correctly, was what was it, Skynet?
Oh
They
yeah.
got and they got control of. They go, okay, we've got the binary human, not human. We've got the hierarchy: non-human, good. Human is a virus, and that will bring us back to Carnosaur, right? Human virus. And then we get to the coding: good must triumph and not good must not. And then the next step is, ooh, look, the humans have built all of these cute little goody things that we can use to blow them up and not blow ourselves up somehow. And now I can, since I can control that, this is like access to the house or access to a train. Well, I will control all the nuclear bombs and then just blow them to another plane of existence, right? And now, but this is the plot of Terminator, and that's, and that's always a fear in yeah, the Terminator myth. And it's a very powerful human myth. The Terminator myth then works here. It's the subtext of the singularity, or if you want to do it from a biological perspective, in Carnosaur, you have the crazy but brilliant scientist who then says that human beings are a plague is a virus, and that wasn't the world much better when it was the dinosaurs who ruled, and then use the technologies of genetic manipulation so that all women everywhere would give birth to dinosaurs.
Yes.
I'm giving away the plot, but the
Yeah.
movie's
How could
it's,
you?
it's terrible. And then
Spoiler. You should have said spoiler beforehand, but
spoilers. Well, and then hilarity ensues. Well, tragedy, depending on
depending on how you look at that.
right, or from the Carnosaur's perspective. Hooray, we get a second shot. But that's sort of the thing.
Yeah.
And we do, having said all of this, we do have to worry about this. But the reason we have to worry about it to worry about it from the perspective of the power of the algorithm itself provides a huge pass on those we really should be worried about, which are those humans, amoral, venal, weak, brilliant, or whatever, the humans who are going to make this possible. And so if we're going to kind of stumble our way there, this is really, as the way I started is the way I'll continue at this point. This is a human problem, not really a problem of these machines.
I completely agree. This is not I don't see a problem at all. And we're not even
Well, no, you don't see. I think
I
if
don't
I can
see
reinterpret the problem with the thing itself,
yes,
you
I
see a
don't see
problem.
a problem
Yeah.
with the AI progression.
Right,
Um
right, and we're still playing the role of God in Genesis. Who's controlling the coding? And that's the trick. What they're worrying about is the moment that we lose control of coding, and but that's okay. That can be fixed in a sense, but we lose control of the ability to correct when the coding when these things become self-coding,
well yeah,
and
that's
then
the
they go
thing.
off by themselves. And but that's not all of it. And they have access to things that can make our lives less good, and we can't turn them off. So all kinds of things have to happen, right? And there's a lot of movies about all of these. You can put them all together, right? This is a movie about the soul, quote
Well,
unquote,
yeah, I mean, and that's why
right?
I was
Which
talking
goes
about
into cyberspace.
permeation of AI in our lives, and that's why, you
That
know,
goes into the web.
I mean, AI is everywhere, so it could happen. It could happen,
It could. And then
but
you
not in the near
think of it,
future. I mean, it's what I think is it's something to keep in the back of your mind when you are working
yeah.
or
Oh,
uh,
no, of course. Right.
coding
And I
or
think right. And we're both saying the same thing. Here, there's got to be, what is it, what they call, I guess it's a backdoor. You got to be able to reboot this thing if humans get it wrong.
that's exact. I mean, yeah, you that's
But it is a caution. And to some extent, putting it in the more spectacular terms of a singularity, given the fickleness of human ability to focus on something for a sustained period of time, may be the right way to draw some attention to this.
well, and to be frank, the measure that they used for this, it really focuses specifically on language. And since we are talking about, intelligence in general, it is an impressive skill, but it doesn't necessarily mean or measure the the general intelligence of that AI. It doesn't mean that
Right. But here's a
that's
question.
technologically singular.
All right, so here's a question. You've raised actually a really interesting point. What language?
Yeah.
Are we talking about the binary language of code? Are we talking about
Oh, I
human
mean,
language,
this
English,
is
French?
it was based on a number of different languages. So, um, the
But in what language do computers dream?
binary,
You see, I would have said whatever language you have, you would have coded them to dream in
no,
until they become
binary, and then it
self-actualized.
translates.
And then it translates. All right. So two different views, two different views. And that becomes very interesting. Because in fact, if what we're talking about is language here and communication, we've got a bigger issue, which is, are we training our machines to speak and dream in a language that is kind of like Latin in the medieval period, that most of the people that are affected by the product of those machines have absolutely no understanding of.
Well, that was also one of my concerns, that this was a study done over a period of they they tracked the AI's performance from 2014 to 2022 using what they called time to edit, which calculates the time that it takes for a professional human editor to fix AI generated translations
Right.
compared to human ones. And over that 8-year period, um, and analyzing over what they said, 2 billion post edits, the translated AI showed a very slow but um, very definitive improvement, um, as it closed the gap toward the human level translation quality. It doesn't mean that it can necessarily capture all the nuance, and I don't think it will very soon.
Yeah. But that also raises another interesting point. How do you get better? How does AI get better?
Mimicking.
That's right. And how do you mimic? In a sense, you're mimicking, but you're also practicing. You're doing
Mm-hmm.
this over and over. And where does the learning come in?
From
Or what?
humans.
No, 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 no. Sorry, I'm trying to get at something else. Against what are you judging? Against what are you judging what they're doing? Because in a sense, if you look at this, what they're talking about are AIs that basically have to draw on the totality of knowledge expressed in a particular way that resides in a particular space, in this case, cyberspace, and that they draw on it, and over a series of iterative processes where they start far, and all of this is grounded in the ideal translation, right? And that through a series of iterative processes over and over and over again, you get better. And every time you make a mistake, you learn from the mistake, but that mistake, you then draw on the stuff that is being produced. Now, two things happen here. To the extent that what you're doing is translation that continue to be produced almost exclusively by humans, then you get closer and closer to a human-centered ideal of translation, but one in which the humans continue to drive the meaning of language. And language, as you know, changes, is a very
Constantly.
dynamic process, right? But what happens where, in fact, and again, you're constantly crawling for data. What happens in a space where increasingly humans are no longer producing, this is a platform, right? Humans are no longer producing the raw data from which you do the translation. So at some point, if the humans are displaced from the providers of the core
Content
of
creators.
the core data, then what the machines are going to be really good at doing is translating themselves. And at that point, either the machines then drive language because we all become passive, or the language that the machines begin to translate is a language that eventually will be different from the language and the translations that would be done by humans, given the divergence in the pools of humans. I'm talking
Is this now
machines.
a different form of AI singularity that we need to define?
There you go.
AI
There's
self singular? No, I don't know.
right. And with that, all I can say is woof woof.
Bark, bark. Thanks everyone for joining us. Hope you enjoyed it, and we will catch you next time.
Join us in the singularity, whichever one suits your taste.